Dark Magician. Dark Magic Attack!
What?
Your heavy metal
Shit.
has been shattered.
So, it's been roughly 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a little over a month since I revealed some Yu-Gi-Oh! As LOR cards. I thought it was a really cool experiment. A bunch of you agreed, so here we are doing it again. And this time we're doing it with the rival, the counterpart to the Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Dark Magician. Now, this time, if you want any explanation on my lore theology, go and check out my previous video, because today we're just gonna get right into it. So, up first is the Dark Magician. Now, I decided there was no one region to put the Dark Magician in. It turns into one of those things where if you put something like the Dark Magician into Shadow Isles, or you put him into Shurima, then basically everything ends up in one of those two regions. And I really want to try to steer away from favoring one or two regions if I can with these. So that's why we've decided on a Runeterra champion. Also, it gives me a little bit more creative freedom with giving him an origin. He has an origin of Dark Magic Circle. We'll get into what that is in a second. But on play, you get to pick a Dark Magic spell to create in hand. I envision this working a lot like Aphelios, where you play Aphelios and you get a screen full of a bunch of different weapons to pick from. So to show you guys what I mean, we drafted up a little mock version of it. So you've got your Dark Magician is now being played, and you've got the 4 Dark Magic spells that can be created. There are more than these 4. But as far as what the Dark Magician can create, or what Dark Magic Circle will create, these are the 4 that will be given. These are like the standard ones, these are the normal ones. We'll get into what each of them do in a second. I just wanted you guys to kind of have the picture in your mind when Dark Magician is creating a Dark Magic spell. Dark Magician will level up once you have played 5 Dark Magic spells. And then once you have played your 5 Dark Magic spells, Dark Magician will upgrade all of your Dark Magic spells. You can now see that the selection of 4 spells that we would create are going to be different cards. I also envision that any that you have in your hand will turn into Dark Magic Plus cards. Dark Magician being a 5-mana 5/4, nothing too spectacular stat-wise, no keywords, but a pretty good on-play effect, and hopefully a really strong origin effect. Once you have leveled up Dark Magician, you now get the Dark Magicians. So Dark Magicians are going to be pick a Dark Magic Plus spell to create in hand, and in round start, it will add a copy of the last Dark Magic spell you played last turn to your hand. Just becomes a 5-mana 6/5. To kind of go over very quickly the methodology here, Dark Magician in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a lot of support cards and has just a whole lot of upgraded forms of the Dark Magician, so it's really hard to pick one. What I wanted to do here was I wanted to pick an upgraded form that would make the most sense for deck building. I wanted, if we're going to make him a Runeterra champ, then he needs to have something that makes him unique. The Dark Magicians, which is what this card is based off of, is a fusion monster. Once per turn, if a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you can draw 1 card, and if that was a spell or trap, you can set it, and if it was a trap or quick play spell, you can activate it this turn. This concept of being able to get new magic, new spells, after you've recycled your old ones was kind of the mentality for this entire set, especially with some of the other Dark Magician cards, all the dark magic spells that we have. What they do in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very close to the same concept of play this spell, grab another spell. And the other thing is the Dark Magicians is actually a competitively viable card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. So I feel like if I'm going to bring over any card, I want it to be this one. What's the origin of Dark Magician? Is it just you can add magician cards to your deck? No. I'm really glad that you made that comment, because one thing I have noticed on LOR Twitter, on the LOR Discord, people really hate when a origin effect is just add specifically my cards that support me into the deck. And yeah, Jin was the best origin, but sadly very narrow to optimize. That's why what I decided for the Dark Magicians, the origin effect is Dark Magic Circle. Round start, if you have played a spell last round, add a random Dark Magic spell to your hand. One of the 4 cards you can just randomly add to your hand, so long as you played a spell last round. You may put any card that creates a spell in hand into your deck during deck building. What does that mean? Basically, any card that on the text specifically says to add some spell to your hand. A perfect example of this is Mountain Goat. Mountain Goat creates a gem in hand. The gem is a spell. Reggie. What is Reggie's name? Manifest a 6+ cost spell to your hand. a spell is being created to your hand. Spacey Sketcher says discard to invoke a celestial card. Now, invoking, these are not necessarily spells. Sometimes they could be units. This would not work. You would not be able to put Spacey Sketcher into a deck with Dark Magician off of the origin effect. Something else that will work is something like Tellstones. Tellstones are a spell that creates another spell in hand. So you would be able to basically put in any Tellstone into a deck with Dark Magician. And that sounds like it's really strong, but when I theory crafted this, it really became very situational which Tellstones you'd actually want in your deck. Oh god, Reggie and Conchologist in every Dark Magician deck, I'm already cringing. Dark Magic Circle fits so perfectly, because literally every Dark Magician card has this circle in the background, so it makes sense that this would be in the background for the origin effect, so that you know that they are all connected. And it's just Flow, but 2.0. Okay, so, it's actually funny. I came up with this set, I want to say a month ago. I think my first card on this, I made, basically when I released the Blue Eyes video. And this initially was, when you've played 2 cards. It actually was pretty funny when they announced Flow as a mechanic. And I was like, oh wow, that's really convenient that I almost just made support for this archetype. This is the Dark Magician's champ spell. So it's Soul Servant. Place a Magician unit from your hand into your deck to draw 2. You're essentially netting 0 cards, but you're cycling for 2. Dark Magician has the tribe of Magician. I actually don't have that many supports directly for the Dark Magician, but I've been theory crafting some other future custom cards for this that will have a lot of Magicians, so make sure to be subscribed for that. But there's currently not a lot of them. So even though this sounds strong, 4 mana, cycle 2. That tends to be typical for LOR, is 4 mana is worth drawing 2 so long as there's some condition attached to it. Now, we're going to go over each of the Dark Magic cards. You've got the normal spell, and then you have the upgraded spell. So just keep that in mind as we go forward, because that's how we're going to be doing this. Dark Magic Attack. Deal damage to an enemy equal to an allied Dark Magician's power. So long as they don't Frostbite, or you're not able to buff his attack, you will only be dealing 5 damage to something. And it's to an enemy, so it can't go face, but it will usually be a 3 mana deal 5. It's strong, as long as you have him on the board. If you can keep him on the board, he is 5 mana. Turn 5 if you have 3 mana banked, play Dark Magician, grab a Dark Magic Attack, and then clear something on the board. But Dark Burning Magic, if you behold Dark Magician, kill an enemy unit or deal 5 to the enemy nexus. So this will not be reliant on his power. It will not be reliant on being slow, because now it's a 4 mana fast speed. I took some inspiration from Darkness, just because Dark Magician is going to need a way to close out games. I didn't give any of his support keywords, so they're all just kind of value statted, but then you can't give them too good of stats, otherwise they're really hard to interact with. So I figured having Dark Burning Magic as an option of a card that can start burning face, or just start removing stuff, was the only way to really close out a game with this card. The next card that we've got is going to be Illusion Magic. It is a burst speed 4 mana card. Pick a Magician ally. Summon a Magician of Dark Illusion to swap places with it. So this is the Magician of Dark Illusion. It's just a 4 mana 2/2 ephemeral. Nothing super special. Just something to be like, hey, I'm going to swap places with this card. So imagine if you would Syncopation lets you swap the position of 2 allies. It's like that, but it's going to kind of be like that Zed spell where it swaps places with the shadow. So instead of you needing 2 allies on board, it will just create this and then swap targets. If you play this when you have a full board, the Magician ally is going to get created and then just destroyed. So the upgraded form of Illusion Magic, Magician Navigation, stop a spell or skill targeting a Magician ally to summon 1 Dark Magician from your deck if you don't control one. This was a really hard card to try to bring over because it does a lot, and I want to make sure that I get the gist of the card, but then also make it easy to bring over to LOR. So yeah, Memory's Cloak is the closest equivalent that we have right now, other than maybe the Elise spell. It works a bit closer to how Deny works, but if it resolves and the ally that you targeted was not Dark Magician, then it will summon a Dark Magician onto the field. In my opinion, it's probably one of the weaker spells. It needed to have some reason that you want to use it over to just running Deny. And I think being able to give any region some protection like that, especially something as niche as Magicians, which again, we don't have a whole lot of support for yet. 5 mana might be too much. I honestly think I might need to buff this card. Maybe make it stop all spells or skills. the next set of cards that you could grab is Dark Magic Inheritance. So just one thing I want to point out real quick. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really inconsistent with the color of Dark Magician's skin. Sometimes he's green, sometimes he's white, sometimes he's like a bluish turquoise, and I don't know what it's supposed to be. Sometimes you have cards where he's white. Sometimes you have cards where he's supposed to be green, but the only full art that you can find online, he's supposed to be green in this picture, but all the full art that I saw online, he was white. I don't know why he's two different colors, but just in case like you think I made some kind of error, this is not on me. This is totally on Konami. So Dark Magic Inheritance is a 3-mana slow speed spell that will draw a faster slow spell from your deck or create a random Dark Magic spell to your hand. So it could be, if you get this off of Dark Magic Circle and it's just not something you need, you can play this, and then technically you'll get 2 Dark Magic spells. Basically, the Dark Magic Inheritance is just meant to be like a proactive cycling tool. If you don't want a Dark Magic card, you can draw a faster slow speed spell from your deck. I think the bond between teacher and student is something that we don't see a lot of in Runeterra, is targeted draw. Pick an allied Dark Magician girl or Dark Magician, and then you get to draw the other. So if you have the Dark Magician girl on the field already, you can draw and get your Dark Magician. But yeah, so I just thought that these were really interesting mechanics to explore into LOR. So I think Dark Magician being like the master of illusion, being able to bring whatever into fruition. And also, I mean, it kind of works perfectly, right? Dark Magic Inheritance into bond between teacher and student. It almost like tells a story. What's stopping Inheritance from being burst speed? It's not uncommon for spells creating drawing cards to be at burst speed. I guess, again, just me thinking it might be too strong. Maybe the leveled up version of the card should be strong. I almost feel like I'd rather make it focus, though. Initially, I only had the 3 Dark Magic cards, and it was pointed out to me that of those 3 cards, there's really not a great proactive spell. Like, Dark Magic Inheritance is the closest thing we have to proactive, but even then, it's pretty tempo negative to play that card. I decided I should probably add something that summons units. And so that's how we ended up with the last card, Dark Magic Veil, which will summon 2 Magic Karibos. Now, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic Karibo does a lot of things. It is actually a surprisingly in-depth card, and there's no shot that I am spending time trying to figure out how to move this into LOR. It's just a lot of work. I just don't want to figure out how to make that work. Instead, I decided Dark Magic Veil, I need to summon something as a token. And I already made Magician of Dark Illusion, an ephemeral card. So that's why I just decided, let's just use Magic Karibo. And it's cute. It's the cute 1-drop of the Magician archetype. And especially because that's basically what Dark Magic Veil does, is summons a spellcaster. But so finally, the last upgrade for the Dark Magic spells is going to be Dark Magic Curtain, which is going to summon a Dark Magician of Chaos. So the Dark Magician of Chaos is a 5-mana 6/5 with quick attack. And so in Yu-Gi-Oh!, this is almost word for word what it does. When it strikes and kills a unit, obliterate it instead. And this is a mechanic we really only see with Xerath, right? I think that is a good way to handicap certain decks, is by obliterating their stuff. So again, these are the 4 Dark Magic cards that can be created by Dark Magician. Now, I did say the ones that Dark Magician can't create. So all of these... There are 13 cards from just Dark Magician, and we haven't even gotten to the main deckable stuff. So that's why this took a while to make. I try to keep these to like 20-something cards per set for my own sanity and for the length of the video. But so now, it is time to get into the main deckable cards for the Dark Magician. So first and foremost, we have the Dark Magician Girl, a Targon Magician ally, 4-mana 4/3, that is on play, creates a Sage's Stone in hand. We'll get into that in a second. When I see an allied Dark Magician or a Magician of Black Chaos die, grant me +1/+1. Almost exactly what it does in Yu-Gi-Oh! I feel that there was no good reason to not grab that effect. Now, I don't know if there's any reason to cap this, like Senna, because Senna can only get that once, but Senna also gets quick attack. Seeing the uncensored art, I mean, I'm not gonna say I intentionally went out of my way for that, but like, you know, if I'm looking for a YouTube thumbnail, I needed to pick some good art, all right? The peaks of Targon looking mighty fine. Stop. No. No. I hate it. I hate it so much. We're gonna just go into what Dark Magician Girl creates. I thought with Dark Magician that Dark Magician's support cards should also create dark magic spells. The Sage's Stone, pretty much verbatim when it does in Yu-Gi-Oh!, draw a Dark Magician. Dark Burning Magic is kind of like Dark Magician Girl's Dark Magic attack, right? Deal damage to an enemy unit equal to an allied Dark Magician Girl's power. So, kind of same concept as Dark Magic attack, but Dark Magician Girl can grow whenever a Dark Magician or Magician of Black Chaos dies. So this could effectively be, let's just say that 3 units die. So this could be 7 damage to something that you're getting just for summoning Dark Magician Girl. So that's the Dark Magician Girl. I'm going to get her off of my screen before I get banned. We have the Imposter Dark Magician as another card. Now, this one is a Magician ally in Shadow Isles. So I did try to spread them out to the different regions. I figured it needed to be a cheap card that was weaker than the normal Dark Magician. This isn't official artwork, I don't think. I think someone just took the original Dark Magician artwork, turned it red with the white hair. Because there's only one official artwork that's like that, with the Imposter or red Dark Magician. And it doesn't do anything different in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the exact same card as Dark Magician, just reskinned. Dark Magician, but he's on the JoJo color palette swap. It has the same exact effect as a normal Dark Magician. Pick a Dark Magic spell to create in hand. It's a 3-mana 2/1, so it's not super strong, but it does the similar thing of creating a spell in hand. I want the idea of ritual spells into LOR. Ritual spells are a really hard thing to move into LOR just because of how tempo negative they usually end up being. So the card that is created usually needs to be pretty strong, which is why I think for 5 mana, and also having to kill or discard an ally that also costs 5 in order to summon the Magician of Black Chaos. Magician of Black Chaos needs to be kind of crazy. He's a 5-mana 6/5 that on attack will create a Chaos Scepter Blast in hand. So these are his spells. These are his dark magic cards. So he starts off with the Chaos Scepter Blast. If you behold the Magician of Black Chaos, obliterate the weakest enemy unit. So even if they bounce this card back to your hand, even if they bounce him back, you can still use this card. It's 3 mana and obliterate the weakest thing. So if the only card they have on their board is Tryndamere, Tryndamere's just gone. When Dark Magician levels up, you get Dedication through Light and Darkness. It's a 6-mana slow speed spell. Obliterate an enemy unit to summon a Magician of Black Chaos. So for 6 mana, you are removing a threat from the board of your choice, not just the weakest unit, and you get to summon another one of this. Personally, I think that as a ritual card with the hoops and ladders that you need to go through, especially because he only creates it on attack. I initially had it on summon, but if you have it on summon and then you have some infinite combo way to reduce the cost of all your cards in hand, which then you could have an infinite loop of just summoning these and destroying everything on your opponent's board. That is the Magician of Black Chaos. We only have 2 more cards, and I promise they're not nearly as complex. In fact, I kind of came up with these almost last minute, because I figured with there being a new expansion coming out, I should try to incorporate some of the new mechanics into it. And I think equipment was a really, honestly, a perfect one for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there's a lot of cards that are equip spells. We have the Book of Secrets. 2-mana Targon spell, gives +1/+1. Not super strong for an equipment, but my bearer is a magician. So I think it's probably a weak card, but considering how many of the dark magic cards rely on you having a magician ally, this can turn any of your units into a magician ally. I think this matters more than I'm giving it credit for. I could maybe buff it to 3 mana and then have it create something in hand. On play, it creates a dark magic spell. Really doesn't fit into the theme of what this card does. I guess comment with what you'd rather see. Would you rather see this card just giving better stats, or do you think it should just be better support for Dark Magician? All right, guys, we got one more card, and that is the Magic Formula. A 3-mana +2/+0. When my bearer dies, destroy me to heal your Nexus 3. So it gives you a little bit of heal, but it's also not a replayable equipment. If I see you summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, auto-equip me to it, which means if you have this in hand and you play your Dark Magician, this automatically goes on there, and now Dark Magician is a 7/4. I don't know, the more I think about it, I don't know if that, healing your Nexus 3, if that'd be too strong if it just, did that all the time. So that was all the cards for the Dark Magician set. There will also be an Imgur link to all of these cards in the description. Let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. I would sincerely appreciate it. I've really enjoyed all the feedback that I've had, especially while streaming this video. So if you want to see these live when I do them, make sure to check me out on Twitch. I'll have that linked down below. Make sure to hit that follow button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to smash that bell. Make sure to smash that like button. And then I will see you guys in the next video. I'm not good enough at this YouTube thing to come up with like a good outro. So goodbye.